All right, guys, we are live. If you have not been paying attention recently, and I'm talking within the past hour and a half of the NFL, there's been a lot that's taken place. Now, earlier today, Myles Garrett signed a contract extension. There was a lot of rumors about him potentially being traded. It made a lot of sense for Myles Garrett to go to the Eagles or to the Bills if he were to be traded, but he signed a big contract extension, so that was really early today. But within the past hour and 20 minutes or so, Davante Adams is a Ram, 2 years, $46 million. Josh Allen signs a huge contract extension, 6 years, $330, $250 guaranteed. Big congratulations to Josh and his family, by the way. Congratulations to Davante and his family as well. And then DK Metcalf is a Steeler. DK Metcalf, guys, is a Steeler, and that was just insane, man. So we're going to discuss everything, every move that happened today. There were also other moves. Nick Bolton signed an extension with the Chiefs. The Patriots and Mike Vrabel. The Patriots signed Harold Landry. Mike Vrabel reunited with his former player Harold Landry. There has been a lot that has transpired today. Like a lot of the comments are saying, insanely crazy day. What's up, Daniel? How we doing? Shout out all the Steelers fans, by the way, because this is everything they've been hoping for. They wanted another receiver opposite of George Pickens. They were mocked a lot of receivers in the first round. I know I've mocked the Steelers, Emeka Ibuka from Ohio State a lot just to give them another receiver, but now they have DK Metcalf and George Pickens. I'll be eager to see how the George Pickens situation would play out. Now, for the trade compensation, what I'm going to end up doing here is I'm going to end up going through Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport's Twitter a lot here just to make sure that I am not missing out on all of the details. But DK also received a 5-year, $150 million contract extension from the Steelers. So huge congratulations to DK and his family for that. But the trade here is the Steelers are sending a second-round pick to the Seahawks, and they are flipping picks in the 6th and 7th rounds. So the Seahawks get the Seahawks get the second, and then they get I'm actually not sure if they're flipping picks in the 6th and 7th, so it's actually not clear who is getting the 6th and 7th, but the point is it's mainly a 2. I'm not really worried about the late day 3 capital, but DK Metcalf, guys, just insane here. H. Brizzy with the first super chat, he says, DK and Pickens getting locked TF up. I'm not going to say what that word means. You can infer what that means. By Marlowe, Nate Wiggins, and Benji. We're getting him in round 2. Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame for years to come while they spaz on the sideline. So, to talk about DK Metcalf and George Pickens, I am extremely eager to see how each player will play out. Obviously, we've seen George Pickens on the sidelines. Obviously, we've seen George go off the screen before, especially there was one play against the Commanders last year where there was an interception deep downfield, and instead of trying to make the tackle, George effectively took out the corner that was guarding him on the play, and it was hilarious because it was kind of like a Looney Tunes Bugs Bunny type effect as he was going off the screen as the play was continuing on. DK Metcalf he's not quiet, I'll say that. He's another big personality. That's going to be interesting because who's going to quarterback for the Steelers in 2025? And this is also, guys, the next 48 hours I am incredibly ecstatic for. I mean, is it going to be Sam Darnold quarterbacking for the Steelers next year? Is it going to be Justin Fields? Is I don't think Russ, but is it going to be, who's it going to be? I don't think they're going to take another quarterback in round 1. That's just me, but I am very, very much looking forward to the next 48 hours, especially with how the Steelers where the Steelers decide to go at the quarterback position. And the reason that I bring this up is especially with DK and George Pickens, is you're in a division where you have to be able to go after the Lamars and the Burrows, and the Browns they're in a different situation, but at least for right now, the point is you have to put up points when it matters. And obviously we saw with the Steelers last year. I just want to pull up some specific stats because the Steelers at the end of the year last year were abysmal. And the games that I go back to for the Steelers last year was the one Bengals game where it was atrocious. Especially with the way that game ended Russ threw the ball away all game and then took the sack, and it was not ideal for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, the Steelers' drives in that game, from what I remember, they were awful. It was Punt, touchdown, punt, downs, end of half, punt, touchdown, punt, field goal, turnover on downs. It was a very ugly game for the Steelers, and their offense became a lot of, hey, let's try and run the ball 3 or 4 yards up the middle. Okay, now we have 3rd and 7. Okay, George Pickens, here's a 35-yard opportunity. Please make this play. Oh no, it didn't work out. 3 and out. I'll be eager to see how that transpires in 2025. Brian, appreciate the super chat. Brian says DK in black and gold is going to be sick. By the way, thoughts on Aaron Jones' extension? Agree on the DK in black and gold. I'm also very eager to see what number DK Metcalf chooses, because obviously George Pickens has 14, and he's been there for years, so he shouldn't give that up for DK Metcalf. Now, what I will say is, regarding the Aaron Jones contract extension, I'm happy for it. It was 2 years, $20 million, and that was another extension that happened today that was very minor in the grand scheme of things relative to where we are and what's happened in the past hour and a half. And Rams fans will get to the Davante part in a minute. But Aaron Jones, 2 for 20, 13 guaranteed. The cap's continuing to go up every year. He's coming off of a 1,500 total yard year. You have to pay for talent. They're probably also going to draft a back on late day 2, early day 3. I like the contract extension a lot for what it is. Daniel, appreciate the member. Good QB, and they might win a playoff game. We'll see. And then James, also appreciate the membership. Appreciate that a lot, James. But my guy Kostler says, I'm tired. He's a Patriots fan. That is definitely worth noting for Patriots fans. Is there has been a lot of talk over the past couple of years, whether it was T. Higgins, Brandon Ayuk, DK Metcalf, pretty much any receiver. I'm not really going to include Justin Jefferson in that, because he was there was like more like fan made up rumors. Oh, we want 2 first-round picks and Justin Jefferson for the Vikings to move up to get Drake May. I'm not really including that, so not going to include that one. But there's been so much discussion about the Patriots getting a receiver. They still don't have one. And Kostler, I'm going to air a DM that you sent me, if you will. I know you're not going to care because it's really not that a lot, but he just said, or it's really not that crazy, but he said, quote, I just want us to sign someone who can catch a ball. I would imagine that's how a lot of Patriots fans feel at this point. And I understand the pain where Patriots fans are coming from when it was a 2nd round pick, especially when you have the money the Patriots do. So I would say right now, the Patriots not looking good, at least with this specific situation, just because of what was in front of them. Now, Bob, appreciate the super chat. Who do you think will be the Seahawks quarterback next season? Tank Commander Sam Howell, Sam Darnold, Aaron Rodgers, or Jackson Dart? Jackson Dart is an interesting proposition. Now, right now I'm under the belief that there's going to be over 2.5 quarterbacks taken in the first round. Obviously, we know all about Shador and Cam Ward, but I do think Jackson Dart will find his way into round 1. Specifically with the Seahawks, I don't think so. But the Seahawks they're in an interesting situation. And we discussed this the other night with the Raiders trade with Geno 48 hours ago, where, okay, you have DK, you have Jackson Smith-Njigba. Now you don't have DK. And you get 2 top 100 picks from the DK Metcalf trade. Obviously, the Steelers had to then give him a $30 million per year contract extension, and Geno is also 34 years old, so I don't think he was going to be the long-term solution there, at least Mike McDonald's quarterback of the future for the next 3, 4, 5 years. But you're at a point with Seattle where they're in a very weird situation, because the floor of that team is high. The Seahawks are never going to be a 3-14 team unless they have like a 49ers type year where everybody gets hurt back in 2020, where it was just big player after big player gets hurt, and you're fielding a non-NFL caliber team by season's end. So they're never going to be that team. But you're also at a point where it's going to cost a lot to move up from pick 18 or pick 20 or 22 or wherever they are in the coming years to go get your quarterback of the future. So the Seahawks they're in a really weird situation. And what I think they'll do at this point is go get Sam Darnold to try and have him play for a year and basically use this as the thought process that Sam Darnold's 28 years old. We're going to probably pay him 30, 35 a year, at least for 1 year, maybe 2. See how it works out. And if he does not work out, I don't know what the answer would be after that. but I do think Sam Darnold would make the most sense for the Seahawks at this point in time because it at least gives you somewhat of a chance to have a long-term solution at the quarterback position if, in fact, Sam Darnold works out. So right now, there is no current NFL news aside from what we've discussed. I'm kind of hoping that we get a big trade while we are live. I'm actually really, really hoping for that. What's up, Truth? How we doing? Let's see here. Sean says, thanks for the consistently great content, brother. Appreciate that more than you know. I do. Appreciate that more than you know. And Justin says, what is even happening today? Crazy day. Also, Dallas Goedert is on for trade offers. Watch the Eagles taking a tight end in the first or second. Yeah, the Eagles taking a tight end in this class makes a good amount of sense. Colston Loveland maybe falls down the board due to a not productive final year at Michigan, a lot of which was out of his control. The quarterback play was not good. Not surprisingly, whenever there was a first-round quarterback prospect there in 2023 in J.J. McCarthy, he looked a lot better. Colston Loveland's a really good player, and Dallas Goedert is slowly getting up there in age. It would make a lot of sense for the Birds to do that and kind of have a Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert situation, but 7 years later. So that would make a lot of sense. What do you think about Trey Hendrickson to Washington? Trey Hendrickson going to a team, I'm going to use this as an example, even though it's not exactly going to fit, but like Washington, Jacksonville's the one that wouldn't fit because of Hines Allen and Trayvon Walker. But New England, basically any team with a young quarterback, although Trevor's been paid, but the point is young team that has the money to be able to pay Hendrickson. And Jacksonville was just kind of example, that was not the best example, but you get the concept that I'm going for. But Washington, New England would make a lot of sense. But Trey Hendrickson, guys, this is just peak NFL right here. I mean, all of this within the past hour and a half. Myles Garrett's a little earlier in the day, but this is awesome, man. I love football so much. Hurts to be an Eagles fan. Should the Eagles stay with Huff or get a DE in free agency? I would probably say, I'd probably go, oh man, let me think about this. Probably actually say draft at this point. Probably say draft. I know we just discussed the tight ends, but I'd probably go draft at this point. All right. Did you see the Lions release Zadarius Smith? I did. I did see that. I saw some Lions fans were upset about that, but Zadarius Smith at this point is not, I mean, he's an okay player. He's not going to be the player that he was, 4 or 5 years ago, because Zadarius Smith at his peak was a really, really good player. But ironically, a team that I think makes a lot of sense for Zadarius Smith at this point, given that he will be 33 on opening day in 2025, is the Chicago Bears. The reason why I say ironic is it would complete the NFC North gauntlet for Zadarius, and I know he's coming off of a 9-sack year, but he had a bit of a down 2023 season, at least relative to, again, the player he was 4 or 5 years ago. But Zadarius is a good number 2 pass rusher at this point. You need to know what you're getting when you sign up for Zadarius Smith. Chicago makes a lot of sense. Let's see here. Garf says, I need a Jaguar signing now. Gladstone. I think James will have you covered. He'll have you covered soon enough. I missed a donation. Who did I miss? No, I got Garf. He's an OG. He's a great fella. I got him. But to discuss the Davante Adams to the Rams signing, because I know there's a lot of Rams fans that want to discuss this, and I get it. I love this signing for a couple of reasons. Puka Nacua did not have 1,000 yards last year. He obviously missed some time. He actually finished the year with 990, if you were wondering. But I really do think Puka Nacua is one of the best receivers in football. I'm not going to get into the rankings, but I think he is an all-pro level talent. Again, not getting into rankings, but he's a phenomenal football player. He should be there for years, and he is the wide receiver 1 in this offense, and you're giving a 32-year-old Davante Adams, who still had over 1,000 yards last year, missed some time, by the way. Davante Adams, obviously there was a lot of drama with how his Raiders tenure ended, but he's still a really good football player, and that's kind of lost within the Davante drama from last year, if you will, but he's still a really good football player. So you get him I'm pretty sure it was 2 for 46, 23 a year. Good for the Rams, man. I mean, that was an all-around good signing for both sides. And Yeah, they're old right now with Stafford and with Davante Adams. Again, Davante's 32, will be 33 in December. Stafford's like 37 at this point. But if you get a ring out of it, does it matter? No. Stafford is 37. I was actually guessing. I wasn't sure if it was 36 or 37 or 38, but we got it right. But it doesn't matter. If you get that ring, who cares? Oh no, we had an old team one year. Guess what? Rings last forever. Doesn't matter that Andrew Whitworth retired after 2021. No, they got the ring. So they're in a really good position. The Rams are one of the best teams in the NFL. Not just the NFL. I kind of botched NFC and NFL there. They're one of the best teams in the league. They've done a tremendous job of rebuilding on the fly with the 23 and 24 draft by addressing the trenches the way they did, by bringing in guys, and I'm probably going to miss a player here. I don't mean to, but by bringing in guys like Steve Avila, Byron Young, Jared Verse, Braden Fisk. Les Snead's done a really, really good job in terms of overhauling that roster as fast as he did while still being competitive. So the Rams are awesome. They're in a good position. Speedy says Sam Darnold behind the Seahawks line would be a disaster. Appreciate the super chat. You are correct. You are correct, Speedy. I do not disagree with that, but you're also at a point with the Seahawks where what are your options? I mean, do you go with Darnold? Do you go with Aaron Rodgers? Do you go with Kirk? Do you go with, I mean, this is not going to happen, but I'll just toss him out. Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, Jameis, Jackson Dart, because you're not going to be able to probably not going to be able to trade up for Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward at this point. So I really think there's one of two options at this point. Well, three options. Darnold, Kirk, and Aaron Rodgers are, I think, who are the three options for the Seahawks at this point. And because of the age and youth with Darnold, especially given that he's coming off of a 35 touchdown season. Yes, I know he had the two stinkers, but man, those are where I think Seattle would be, those three. All right, let's see here. Garf says, Seattle deciding that they are at their ceiling is currently constructed and remaking the team is really sharp, in my opinion. I credit the Seahawks for doing that because I said down the stretch of the 24 season and even in January when we were discussing them a little bit after their season ended, that I thought if they continued to run it back with Geno and with not that Lockett is a huge part in it, but just the concept of Geno and Lockett and DK and that group, if you will. Fun peak, by the way. Very fun peak. But they were borderline the Steelers over the past couple of years where, you know what, we're good, but we're not going to be good enough to win the Super Bowl. So I credit the Seahawks for going about this, but it's, yeah, I mean, this is part of it, if you will. It's part of it. All right, let's see. Appreciate the super chat, Garf, more than you know. Appreciate it. Let's see here. Basically confirms Cook is not getting paid, referring to James Cook. The thing is Josh Allen, I'll just say this, the big four in the AFC, I think there's a big four in no order. Josh, Lamar, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, that four. Whatever their agent comes to the table and says, hey, this is what we want, the owners pretty much have to say, okay, cool. Like, let's just get this done. Let's just get this done. So 6 for 330 for Josh, 250 guaranteed. Really happy for Josh to get 250 guaranteed because Josh's playing style at times can be incredibly reckless. And we all know that. We all know that Josh will scare Buffalo fans because, you know, in week 6 in the second quarter against a team that's 1-4, he'll lay his shoulder on the line for a 3rd and 7, or not a 3rd and 7, like a 2nd and 5 to get a first down. And that's who Josh Allen is as a player. I mean that in the best way possible because every game Josh plays like his last. You never have to question the effort with Josh Allen. But to get 250 guaranteed is huge for Josh and his family. But James Cook, to me, is obviously he had a really, really good year this past year, but the Bills' offensive line is really good. James Cook is a good player, but James Cook isn't exactly in a great position to... I mean, he's in a good position because he just had 1,267 total yards and 18 total touchdowns, but what are they going to say? Hey, James, we'll give you 3 years, $39 million, and he says, I want 3 years, $45, and just holds out the rest of the year? I just don't think James Cook personally is in the best position to try and dictate policy about his contract. Now, I understand wanting to get the bag. Obviously, I get it. But when you are in Buffalo with Josh Allen, with the offensive line the way the Bills have up front, James Cook, to me, doesn't... He's probably third, fourth in line, if you will. So, if I were James Cook, I would try to... get that extension, obviously, but I wouldn't... If they offer 13 a year instead of 15, I would say just take it, but that's just me. Leo, appreciate it. Seahawks unretiring Eli Manning confirmed. First super on the stream. Appreciate it. That was kind of long-winded about James Cook, but the point is I don't think he is in this... Like Jahmyr Gibbs, I think there's this difference between who they are as players, if that makes sense. And if Jahmyr Gibbs was demanding a contract, I think there would be a different conversation to be had, if that makes sense. But that was kind of the point with that. All right. How embarrassing are the Patriots? By the way, this Landry deal makes me want to throw up. So, let me just confirm. I'm like 90% sure it was 3 for 43. I just want to confirm the exact numbers. Again, we're just going off Schefter's Twitter here. But 3 for 43 for Landry is a lot. I know it's a lot, but it's not the end of the world. It was 3 for 43.5. It's a lot. It's more than you'd like to pay for who Harold Landry is as a player. But the reality is the Patriots have money, and you have to bring in talent to some degree, no matter what. So I'm not going to absolutely slam the Patriots and say they're done. Drake May can no longer develop or anything like that. They had the most money in the NFL by far, and the reality is you have to spend the money no matter what. So, yes, they did overpay for who Harold Landry is as a player, but to me, it's really not that big of a deal. I want to see what the actual guarantees are with the Harold Landry deal, because obviously right now the talk is the DK Metcalf deal. So I want to see if I can actually find the guarantees within the Harold Landry contract. But they overpaid, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, it's 14 a year. It's not going to be the end of the world. But anyway, let's keep it rolling here. Oh, AK is going through it, by the way. He is going through it. He's going through it. 26 guaranteed. Yeah, it's not that bad for Harold Landry. It's not great, but I'm not... Oh, man, they're completely done. All right. Just don't ask. Appreciate the super chat. Do you think Bucky Irving's production will go down since Liam Cohen left? Also, what's your opinion on Tyrone Tracy besides the fumbling concern? So, first off, Bucky Irving had a tremendous rookie season. I like Bucky Irving a lot as a player. He overperformed every expectation that I had. 1,500 total yards, 8 total touchdowns. Really underrated rookie season, especially when you talk about Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix and all of the 2024 rookies. Brian Thomas Jr., Malik Neighbors. But whether the player is Bucky Irving, whether the player is, I don't want to say Saquon Barkley or Jahmyr Gibbs, those elite guys, but I'll use Aaron Jones as an example because Aaron Jones also had 1,500 total yards from scrimmage this past year. It's going to be tough to repeat that production on a year-by-year basis no matter what. So statistically, there's a good chance that Bucky Irving's production declines. He averaged 5.4 yards per carry this past year. They had a really good system in Tampa, a really good balance in Tampa, the way they were running the football. So in theory, yes, I think his production will go down. I think he's still a really talented player. Now with Tyrone Tracy, there's the meme with the car in the garage in the bad area. I think that's him and Malik Neighbors. That's obviously more applicable towards Neighbors than they do Tyrone Tracy. But Tyrone Tracy is a really solid back, and the reality is the Giants are in a position where they just need to bring in good football players. And if they can kind of not have to worry about bringing in another running back for a couple of years, hopefully 2 more years, at least 2025, but hopefully 2026 as well, because Tyrone Tracy is that guy, by all means, keep him there. He's a good player. 1,100 total yards from scrimmage this past year. Yes, the fumble, he had 5 fumbles this past year. That's not something you want to see, especially on 230 touches, but he's a good football player, and I hope he stays in New York for the next 2-3 years and go from there. All right. Chargers could actually get back Keenan. It's possible. We'll see what the Chargers do. We will see what the Chargers do. I'm really eager to see what they do at the receiver position. All right. Let's take a quick drink here. Hydrate, fellas. All right. Whew. I want Jahdae Barron. I do too. A lot of people want Jahdae Barron. He's a really good football player. All right, let's talk Myles Garrett real fast, and then we'll continue to address the chat and everything. All right, Myles Garrett, I want to pull up, again, exact numbers here. It was a 4 for $160 contract extension for Myles Garrett, which is phenomenal. Now, the way that I look at this with Myles Garrett, I'm not going to talk too much about... let me think how to word this. I'm not going to talk too much about like, oh, he didn't stand on business and he said he wanted a trade and everything and all of that. Guys, if you are 24, 25, 26, 27, in his case, 29 years old, your agent's calling you and he says, hey, here is $123 million guaranteed. All you have to do is sign your name. But what are you going to say? I mean, really, like, let's just think this out loud. What are you going to say? You know what the answer is. I mean, $123 million. Good for Myles. Good for Myles. A massive Falcons extension. Is this Drew Dalman? Hold on here. No, the Falcons just agreed to a 2-year, $45 million extension with left tackle Jake Matthews. Matthews gets 38 fully guaranteed. Years 12 and 13 as Atlanta's left tackle. Okay, so good for Jake Matthews, by the way. But no, Myles Garrett, I don't really have a lot to say other than Hall of Fame player gets a big extension. Now, regarding the $40 million AAV part, that's big, and that's the part that I want to discuss more than the fact of actually Myles staying in Cleveland, because right now, the market is exploding because, you know, whenever you're watching NFL Sunday and you see the same 6 ads, you see Kevin Hart, LeBron James come on and talk about they want someone to run a 40, not someone that is 40, talk about the DraftKings ad, or whether it's the FanDuel ad, or Caesars, or all of them. Sports betting is playing a huge part in the NFL salary cap going up. I mean, it is. And the NFL salary cap in 2027, 2028 is going to be over $300 million, right? So with Myles Garrett getting 40 AAV just a couple of days after Max Crosby got, 35 and a half AAV. AAV is average annual value, so Myles got 4 for 160. 160 divided by 4 is 40. 40 AAV is $40 million average annual value, just for the quick math. Where does that leave Micah Parsons, Jamar Chase, Aiden Hutchinson, all of those guys? And I'm actually pretty frustrated with the Bengals right now, because they had a chance to pay T. Higgins a couple years ago. They didn't. They franchise tagged him. That price is probably $8, $9, maybe $10 million more per year now than what it would have been 2 spins around the sun ago. They weighed on Jamar Chase last year. Jamar I wouldn't say had a down year. I mean, he missed a couple of games the one season. He only had like 1,040 yards a couple of years ago. But he missed a couple of games. And then he had a 1,200-yard year last year. Joe Burrow was hurt. Obviously, a quarterback going down, that's going to hurt your production. They opted not to pay Jamar Chase last year. Justin Jefferson was around 35 AAV per year. Obviously, that was the record last year. And we're at a point where whatever guy's next to get paid is going to break the contract value. That's how it works. But Jamar Chase, in a more or less contract year, has 127 receptions, 1,700 yards, 17 touchdowns. That cost the Bengals at least another $5 million per year, probably 6 or 7. I mean, if Myles just signed for 40 AAV, Jamar's agent is going in there and saying, hey, we want 42. We want, instead of 4 for 160, we want 4 for 172, or whatever the number is. I mean, Jamar Chase is a 25-year-old superstar in his prime. So these are the long-term effects of the Myles Garrett contract with how it affects the rest of the NFL. Micah Parsons, 25-year-old superstar in his prime. One of 4 players to have in NFL history to have 10-plus sacks each of his first 4 seasons. Micah missed a couple games this year, by the way. I mean, Micah Parsons, I know, get your jokes in about, the 1995 NFC Championship game. Micah Parsons is a superstar. He is a Hall of Fame talent. Jamar Chase, Hall of Fame talent. Myles Garrett and the Browns get it done, get the contract done, but, you know, for these owners playing hardball, all you're doing is playing yourself. Give the player what they want, because you need to be able to pay these guys sooner before the market continues to explode. That way you can pay other players. And the Bengals, letting Jesse Bates go and betting that Dax Hill could replace the player that Jesse Bates was foolish. And it kind of goes back to, well, we don't want to pay him because we're not going to pay these guys this big money. It's ridiculous. So that kind of goes back to the Myles Garrett part. All right. Let's keep it going here. What about Purdy? He'll get paid soon. He'll get paid big time as well. All right. Yeah, Purdy will get paid big time. All right, what other comments do we have here? The Bengals going to ask for a first. I don't know what the Bengals are doing. Look, I don't know what the Bengals are doing either, because they frustrate me, and I feel bad for the fans of the team because it's obvious to everyone except the ownership, like, hey, we should pay these guys. We should have paid these guys a year ago, and T's case 2 years ago. Even if you do the math, right? And the salary cap's going to continue to go up. Burrow is $55 million. Average, again, we're going with average. I don't know what his cap hit is this year and next year, and if it'll be 52 this year and 64 next year. We're just going with averages, right? He could have signed for roughly 25 2 years ago. So you'd have $80 million, 55 and 25 is 80 between Burrow and T. Higgins. We'll just say 30, we'll say 40 now for easy math with Jamar if they would have done it last year. That's $120 million in 3 players. Obviously, that's a lot. But it's going to cost a lot more now. And it would have been more beneficial to do it 2 years ago because that $120 million out of $320 million is obviously a lot less than what would be probably $140 or $145 million out of that $320 million cap space in 2 or 3 years. So the Bengals just, I don't understand what their long-term vision is. I really, really don't at this point. All right. Does the AFC West have the best coaches of all time for a division? That one caught me off guard, I'm not going to lie. Hold on. Andy, let me just go through them. Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Pete, and Jim Harbaugh. I feel like it's certainly up there. That's a really good question, by the way. But it's definitely up there. I don't know what else would be, because I'm sure there's one division one time that had like 4 other good coaches, but I feel like the answer would be yes. All right, just don't ask. Appreciate the super chat. With the Jaguars, do you think ETN will eventually be traded, or will he be the lead back? And then in parentheses, I love Travis Etienne. So, Travis Etienne is in a very unique situation. Former first-round pick. He has, I would say, kind of underwhelmed as a former first-round pick. And it was just a weird situation to begin with. That pick to me was always just weird. I'll just leave it like that. It was not one where I was like, oh, let's go. It was kind of like okay, good pick. Or talk myself into it being a good pick. But I wasn't like clapping hands up and down, what a pick by the Jags, right? Travis Etienne at this point is, I mean, I hate to say it because he's only entering year 5, but I feel like we're on the down, like he has he only has, actually, I thought he had over 1,000 touches. He has 770 career touches, but his injury history is not the best. His last 2 years haven't exactly been the best either. And they're at a point where it's going to be either, do we extend Travis Etienne for a year and treat it on a year-by-year basis, or does somebody who needs a running back that's a contender want to try and have a former first-round pick go for it? So to answer this question, to give you an actual answer, rather than talk about the situation, I think you'd eventually be traded because you, especially with this draft class, you can replace Etienne's production for what will be a fraction of the cost. Now, I know I wanted to spiel about discounted production if you pay guys early with the Bengals, where that $25 million for T in 2027 is a lot different than $33 million in 2027. But at the running back position, it's a little different entirely. So I would say eventually trade / let walk. That's just where I stand on that. Master, Mal Rubius, appreciate the super chat. Our Bengals have always gone cheap, same as 30 years ago. Frustrating as hell. Great channel. Appreciate it, Master. And I'm that's exactly how I feel. And I'm not a Bengals fan, so I'm with you. I'm with you on that, and that's where I stand. Just all around frustrating for the Skyline loving people in southwestern Ohio. Shout out Skyline Chili. But that's the Bengals just frustrate me as a franchise because of where they are. All right. I wanted to discuss a couple of other things here. There was a couple of other good comments here. Oh, somebody asked earlier where I wanted to actually address this specific comment. It was, are you going to be streaming I'll see if I can find the exact comment, but it was, are you going to be streaming over the next couple of days? That is the plan. That is the plan. We are going to definitely be streaming as soon as free agency starts. That is the plan. Now I have a video coming out Tuesday. It'll be, I'm not going to spoil, but we have a video coming out Tuesday. We'll have one Thursday, but we definitely plan to stream Tuesday and then go live, as things are happening, which I'm definitely excited for. But I can't find the comment. So whoever asked if I was streaming, credit to yourself. You know who you are. But that is the plan. I ain't trying to sound zesty, but you have striking eyes. I appreciate that, Keith. Appreciate that. All right. Let's keep it rolling here. What other comments do we have? Who should the Rams draft? Tight end, tackle, or corner? It's going to depend on who the best player available is at the position. If the best player available is if the best tackle available is the 64th best prospect and the best tight end is the 24th best prospect, obviously you don't want to force a tackle just to take it. You'd go tight end in that situation. So it's going to depend on that. But I would like the Rams to... I'd love Colston Loveland. I'd love Colston Loveland. Now, Tyler Warren is not going to be realistic for the Rams, but I would love Colston Loveland. Ron, I'm a new sub. Appreciate you being here. All right. Let's see here. Let's keep it going here. All right. Titans feel like they can't get ahead. What would you do for them? For the Titans? I feel like I'd go Cam Ward, personally. But I can definitely be talked into Abdul Carter, but Cam Ward is a really good prospect. He's just a good football player. He would enter a situation that's not that bad. I mean, I will fight for Titans fans that I don't think the roster is as bad as people want to make it out to be. Obviously, they have weak points on the roster, and they could certainly use some upgrades on the roster, most notably at the receiver position, outside of Calvin Ridley. But go Cam Ward, get your quarterback. Love this channel and football. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it, Sosa. He also said the F word in there, but anyway. Do you think Garrett's extension solidifies they go quarterback at 2? I do, yes. I do. That was also one of my takeaways from the Myles Garrett extension was, okay, they got him now. Shador or Cam Ward, you are a Brown. All right, Mario, appreciate it. Thoughts on the Colts quarterback competition for AR? I saw that they're going to be competing with the Vikings to sign Daniel Jones. So if they bring in Daniel Jones, good for the Colts. But I mean, the AR situation right now is tough just because of the accuracy issues and the fact that he completed less than 50% of his passes in year 2 is bad, very bad. But I don't have many thoughts on it. I mean, AR is your guy entering year 3. If he doesn't work out, I feel like everybody's fired anyway. So not a lot of thoughts on the quarterback competition other than I hope Anthony Richardson works out. That's really it. Otherwise, you are kind of in a situation where please somebody else work out, if that makes sense. Like if AR fails, you are waving the white flag, basically saying, please somebody else work out. So I hope Anthony Richardson works out, long story short. Sam Darnold going to be on the Steelers, says Rowdy. Sam Darnold throwing to George Pickens and DK would be fun. I mean, everybody is soured on Sam Darnold, and I get it. But, especially with how the year ended. But Darnold still, he was a good quarterback for a lot of the year. I mean, he was at times, obviously behind a couple of guys, but he was a legitimate MVP candidate. I mean, he finished 10th in MVP voting this year. So, I don't want Darnold on my team specifically because I am a Vikings fan and because we just drafted a quarterback in the top 10, but there's a lot worse than you could have than Sam Darnold. That's just where I stand on that. Shady Luke, appreciate it. I got a feeling San Fran is not going to be number 1 out of the West this upcoming season. Call me crazy. I'm kind of with you, dude. I'm all in on the Rams. McVay, Stafford, Puka, Davante. Give them a tight end. I'm all in on one last legitimate run with Stafford at 37 years old. I'm all in. And if you look at Matt Stafford's numbers from last year, they weren't good, but a lot of context is needed because I mean, Puka and Cooper each missed time they missed significant time. They still won 10 games. They still played the Eagles the closest out of anybody in the playoffs. I know people don't care about moral victories, but the Eagles had 3 double-digit wins in the playoffs, were one of the most dominant teams ever, and the Rams took them down to the wire. And they just upgraded at the receiver position. So, I'm with you. The Rams are a very, very good team. One of the best in the NFL. I'll say it. What are the Panthers going to do? Biggest thing is upgrading the receiving room and upgrading the defense. Really outside of a couple players on defense. I mean, it's pretty much, I would say, eight positions on defense you can upgrade. All right. Do the Bills re-sign Cooper for receiver? You know, I am at a point with the Bills, and I was really underwhelmed heading into the 2024 season with Buffalo. This is before they had Amari. Because I was kind of like, oh man, like, this is a who's who of offense. And I know they were all like, oh, we're the no-name offense. Kincaid can have 8 catches this week. He'll have 2 next week. Everybody eats. Or the everybody eats offense, I think is what it was called. Not the no-name, but everybody eats, right? With Amari potentially going back to Buffalo, I'm not, wow, Super Bowl contenders. They're going to beat the Chiefs this year. Or if they don't, man, New England's going to take a step up. Or whoever, right? I'm at the point with the Bills where they're going to win the AFC East, more than likely. I'd be actually pretty surprised if they didn't win the AFC East in 2025. And they're probably going to play a team that's not the best in the wild card round / up and coming that's not on their level. So the Broncos are up and coming, by the way. But take a Denver, a Pittsburgh, one of those teams that are not on the level of Buffalo, win the wild card round game, and then you get to the divisional, and then you have your shot at 15 in red, 8 in purple, or potentially 9 in orange, and go from there. So I'm not. If I had to give a definitive answer whether the Bills re-sign Amari, keep in mind they just paid Josh and Greg Rousseau. More so, I just wanted to note that, not that that's going to affect the cap to the point this year specifically where they couldn't sign Amari, because you can always manipulate the cap. I feel like the answer would be no. Amari, if they give a 3rd round pick, maybe 1 year. I wouldn't expect a multiple year deal at all by any stretch. That's where I stand on that. Jermichael Powell. He is a OG. I mean, Mike is always, I like Mike. He's big, loyal supporter. I like Mike. He's always DMing me. Good fella. I like Mike. Ready for Justin Fields to rush for 5 yards, while DK and George Pickens absolutely beat the brakes off some poor DB. You know what I'm actually really ready for is to have the over-under for Gatorades thrown down on the sidelines in Pittsburgh. Because DK, I would love to be in a wide receiver room when DK and George Pickens get into it. Like, they are, like, I would just love to be in that room. I would love to be in that room and just see what goes down, just see who starts it, see who instigates it, and then just, I would love to be in that room, man. Yeah. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see which receiver would get ticked off first between DK and George. And this is like an all-time receiving room, even for Mike Tomlin standards. I can't wait to see him though. I really cannot wait to see DK and George in the same receiving room. How many and what color Gatorades? Yeah, that'd be hilarious for like DraftKings or FanDuel to put, okay, what color is going to be the Gatorade this week that George Pickens or DK throws on the sideline, and what quarter? They could get really creative with it. DK would wreck Pickens. I feel like you're right on that. There's a big weight difference. DK is he's a weight room warrior, to say the least. All right, what wide receiver prospect? Oh, geez. Jeff, that was, you got me with the first part. I'm not going to answer that, by the way. Put Des Bryant in there. What hope do Saints fans have to cling to their future? Derek Carr's contract is, every day you wake up is a day closer to Derek Carr's contract ending. That's kind of the hope. That is kind of the hope there. Now, I actually saw this tweet the other day, and I actually screenshotted, and I wanted to kind of read this because it's hilarious. This is regarding the Saints. I will see if the one reply. Yes, okay. Nick Underhill is, let me properly credit Nick Underhill. This is regarding the Saints. He works for New Orleans Football Network. He's really big in Saints media. He tweeted, the conversion of Carr's contract will clear up about $30 million in cap space per source. Somebody replied to Nick and said, will this make it easier to cut ties next year? I don't know if Nick eventually replied or not, but I saw the screenshot. Another individual replied, quote, I hope so, because I'm so sick of that mother trucker, end quote. Like I said, another day you wake up is another day closer to that contract expiring. So that's kind of your hope there. But no, it was the Saints Twitter regarding Derek Carr's contract it's always hilarious. It's always hilarious. All right, let's see here. Falcons re-signed Jake Matthews. We did catch that. Good call, AK. We did get that. That happened while we were live. I was hoping we get another big move while live. But yeah, nothing has happened so far other than the Jake Matthews. DK and Pickens will be fine. This is in Pittsburgh. This is in Yinzeries, if you will. I'm not sure what that comment says. I'm not sure what that says. But anyway, best Evan Ingram fits? Good question. I know we just talked about the Rams needing a tight end. I mean, he would be one of the better tight ends that McVay's ever had. He would be a good field stretching tight end even at this stage of his career. I think Evan Ingram. I mean, the thing is Ingram is so weird, right? Because Ingram is a player that has the athleticism, but he's also a player that averaged 1 year like 8.2 yards of receptions. His career path has been really weird. So he has the potential to be a field stretching tight end, but he's also a guy that kind of just catches underneath passes. Evan Ingram going to the Rams would make a lot of sense. I'll say that. Ingram going to the Broncos would also make good sense. Good call. That would also make a lot of sense. Late to the stream, did you cover the Joey Bosa to Miami rumor? I did not. So I'm not really moved by Joey Bosa at this point in his career. He has been injured a lot, and I wish him the best. Now, it is worth noting for Joey Bosa, he went to high school at St. Thomas Aquinas. For anybody who does not know, I don't know many high schools. I know like IMG Academy, St. Thomas Aquinas. I know there's one out in Vegas. I think it's Bishop Gorman. Maybe another one. And then there's a couple in Virginia. There's one big one in Virginia. It's the one that Christian Hackenberg went to. But the point is, St. Thomas Aquinas is a great high school. Like legendary. Like Michael Irvin went there. The Bosas went there. And Nick, it's in South Florida. So Joey and Nick Bosa are from South Florida. It would make a lot of sense for Joey Bosa to go home for the final stretch of his career. But this is a player that's played 14 or more games twice. Well, I'll stretch it. I'll say 12 games or more in 3 of the past 5 years. Over the past 3 years in a What Have You Done For Me Lately league, he's played in 28 of 51 possible games. If he goes to Miami, great, but I'm not moved one way or the other by it at this point with Joey Bosa. Let's see here. Trade scenarios for number 1 after the Garrett extension. Modern day, good call, by the way. That's another big high school, good call. I would say, I mean, if I'm the Titans, right, I am not accepting, and I know this is going to be very, like, hostile if you were very, like, okay, my way or the highway. I'm not moving out of number 1 knowing I want Abdul Carter, at least in the Titans case, that's how I think they're thinking, without getting a number 1 next year. And I would say to Joe Shane, who's also on the hot seat, I would say, hey, buddy, you're at pick 3. You know the Browns extended Myles Garrett. Everybody knows their quarterback situation. Let's just put our cards on the table, Joe. What do you want? What do you want, but what are you going to do? Are you going to have your job wither away or bet it on Shedeur Sanders? Which would you prefer? Because, you know, Cam Ward's not getting past 2. So give me that extra 1. And if you don't, then I hang the phone up and I let the call go, or I let the pick while I'm on the clock go as long as I can. And there's the last 30 seconds. And if they want to make that call back for the number 1 next year, great. And if not, then I take Abdul Carter. At least that's how I think the Titans should go about that. That's how I think the Titans should go about that, if you will. All right, Cup to the Ravens fit. It would be very, very Ravens. Ravens fans know they've signed a lot of players past their peak, if you will. I still think Cup's a fine player. At least, like, he's not past his peak like some of the other Ravens greats or some of the other Ravens receivers that they've signed in their history, if you will. But all right, who do you think the Chiefs draft? It's going to depend on how the board breaks, but I really think there's a good chance that with the pick they have from the Titans, because they have the L'Jarius Sneed pick from last year, which is pick 66, it makes a lot of sense for the Chiefs to trade 31 and 66 to move up into the draft. Whether that's pick 18, pick 19, pick 20, wherever, it makes a lot of sense for them to go up and get a tackle before all of the tackles go off the board. So hopefully they go up and get a good offensive tackle because they really need it. How does this affect LeBron's legacy? Well, I mean, look, he brought a championship to Cleveland. Myles Garrett didn't. So Myles Garrett didn't, so it's I would say LeBron's legacy is protected. Appreciate the super chat, by the way. It's very thought-invoking. Let's see here. All right, there was a question that I wanted to specifically address. Where was it here? Oh, how much does Micah get paid? Myles Garrett's going on 30 and just got 40 a year. Micah Parsons is one of 4 players in NFL history to have 10-plus sacks each of his first 4 years. Led the league in pressures twice. The only years he didn't was in his rookie year where he was in that hybrid linebacker edge role. And this year when he missed a couple of games and he still finished top 10 in both years. Mike is going to sit down, at least his agent should say, all right, 42 a year. And if you don't, all right, my client is not interested in an extension, we'll demand the trade. Teams would give up multiple first-round picks for Micah. If all you had to do was pay him, yes. Probably 42 a year is where I would guess Micah's negotiations start. Stafford Adams is going to be a problem. Love it. Rams will be in the NFC Championship game. F them picks. Again, if you win a Super Bowl, it literally does not matter. When I was young, I'm talking like 12 to 15 area, I was like, oh, well, whatever. And I used to like justify whatever because my team did not win a Super Bowl, Vikings fan. And I would justify and be like, well, we got this pick this year. And it's like, now that I'm older and I have like, world perspective, like a better perspective, if you will. If you get a ring, it literally does not matter. So that's all. Regarding big 20 piece here. Appreciate it. I'm even more sad than 2Ks ago. So take my money again. I appreciate it. You don't have to do that, but I appreciate it. That is funny. That's really funny. I feel bad for Seahawks fans to a degree because I don't think they were going to win the Super Bowl with Geno as he's aging with a not great offensive line. He's 34, and like I said, they were in a situation where they were kind of they were starting to remind me of the Steelers, where Geno is, when's he turn 35? He turns 35 in October. So they were, would you have thought that Geno was going to be a 36-year-old quarterback winning the Super Bowl for the Seahawks, 37, 38? I don't think so. But that's just me. But I appreciate the super chat. I really do. But I know Seahawks fans are absolutely going through it right now with DK and Geno in a 48-hour span. But best case scenario for Rodgers, love the content, appreciate it. Best case scenario this is the best case for Rodgers, is I feel like I don't want this to happen. I'll say this, as a Vikings fan, if this happened live on air, I would be hot. But the best case for Rodgers is going to Minnesota. Now, I'm going to answer this 2 ways here. As a Vikings fan, I'm 26. I have a few memories, not too much, of Favre when he was with the Packers. Like I don't remember the 96 MVP and the 97 MVP and the Super Bowl in 96 for the Packers, right? So I remember Rodgers obviously more than Favre. And he literally tormented me for like 14 years. From when I was like a 10-year-old kid to like a 24-year-old man. So I do not like Aaron Rodgers as a Vikings fan, right? Now, that would be the best case for him because you have Jefferson, you have Jordan Addison, you have Kevin O'Connell, you have TJ Hawkinson, you have Darisaw, Brian O'Neill, Aaron Jones is his former running back. As an analyst, it would make a lot of sense. You give J.J. McCarthy another year to go behind Aaron Rodgers. You have one shot at a Super Bowl. Now, let me kind of back that up. As an analyst, that's how I would talk about it. As a Vikings fan, I wouldn't like it because I want it to be the J.J. McCarthy era. But for Aaron Rodgers specifically, to answer your question, Minnesota would make the most sense because they're in a better situation for him specifically than Tennessee, than Seattle, than Pittsburgh. So that would make the most sense for him. All right. Not saying it's going to happen, but in your opinion, which quarterback in this draft has the best chance to have a Stroud-Daniels-esque season this year? Landing spot is critical. I personally think. I mean, obviously, sorry, I don't know why I said that. Like it was a changing, or it was a game-changing thought. But I don't think there's going to be a quarterback to have that type of impact that has the potential, aside from Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward. I mean, I like Jackson Dart for who he is, but there's going to be a transition period for him as a quarterback from the Ole Miss offense to an NFL offense. And I also don't think Jackson Dart will start from week 1. And I think Jackson Dart is the third best quarterback prospect in this class. And Jalen Milroe, I think, is a project. I don't think he would start week 1, year 1. So I think that kind of limits it to Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. And the best landing spot, I trust Brian Dable a lot more than I trust Brian Callahan. So I would say Cam Ward to the Giants would be the landing spot there. That would be, and I think Cam Ward is a better prospect than I do Shedeur Sanders. So that would be that. All right. Did Aaron Rodgers hurt you as a Vikings fan? Yes. 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 As a Vikings, yes. All right. But as an analyst, I mean, he's one of the, as a Vikings fan, yes. As an analyst, I mean, he's one of the best players ever. I mean, he's at his peak, him to Jordy, him to Davante. That 2020 season was, 48 touchdowns, 5 picks. It was ridiculous. So it seemed like every week it was that back shoulder, like Rodgers just going to 3-step drop, just Davante flick of the wrist, just every single, it just seemed like it was 100% success rate. All right. Seattle traded the team for half a pack of smokes. That's a funny analogy, by the way. I like that, JK. Appreciate the super chat. Seahawks fans are definitely going through it, but it came down to, do you want to pay a player who's, guys, it seemed like for every offseason that DK Metcalf, starting back in 2022, was going to get traded. I thought there was a really good chance he was going to the Broncos one offseason, but here we are, and he finally gets traded. So this has been brewing for several years. So I get the DK trade, I really do. The Geno is, it makes sense for both sides, because when you ask this simple question of, all right, are the Seahawks going to win a Super Bowl, yes or no, with Geno Smith? I know there is so many more factors within that than that simple question. It's such a complex question, but I think the answer would have been no. So I understand both decisions, as unfortunate as they may be for Seahawks fans to go through currently. But that will wrap up the stream. I hope you guys enjoyed. We will be live for NFL free agency. Looking forward to it. And hopefully you guys enjoyed. And if you are not subscribed already, please subscribe. Helps the channel tremendously. We're closing in a 200K. And if you are listening to the podcast, please leave a 5-star rating. Helps the pod tremendously. Appreciate everyone who joined the stream. Appreciate everyone listening. And as always, until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.